from being a very small child, I've always been interested in cars, trucks, buses. I had every single dinky and Kobe toy going, every Meccano set going. Dad was in the industry.
The passion and desire that you have for the industry is obvious, and the way you've developed and been the driving force, pardon the pun, behind the RHA simulator van, which is about to transition onto an electric van. So you've gone from diesel, well, you've gone from horse and cart 50 years ago, through to diesel and onto the electric van.
But I've been one of those that have always said yes, not because I'm a yes man, and I'm far from that, as people will know, but I always look at something different from my role as an opportunity to learn.
30,000 mechanic shop, as we speak, brings in all sorts of problems for operators, challenges around cost, availability, blah, 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 blah. Why, in your opinion and experience and knowledge, why are we having trouble recruiting the next generation of mechanics specifically?
Well, it's a Paul Allera view, it's not the view of the RHA.
This is what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
It's a Paul Allera podcast.
So somebody asked me the other day, why are most trucks automatic? That's probably because the truck's more intelligent than some of the drivers that are driving it, because they've got everything on them. Forward observation is greater on a truck.
And it's a very different job, from a...
Without a doubt, but all it's becoming is, we have a standard, and that's the standard we should have. We shouldn't be changing those standards.
Correct.
Yeah, we shouldn't be creating something saying you need this, you need that, and that's where it goes.
Do people wave it on motorway?
Some people do actually, yeah.
In a nice way.
Yeah, some people wave in funny ways as well. I don't know what that means, but
And then the next question is, and again, it's in your experience, from cart to truck, if you like, with the pony and the donkey. What should a trade association in this ever-changing world, what is the role of a trade association today and going forward? Is it still relevant or is it not relevant? In your opinion? Welcome to Roadway, the podcast that explores the issues, the challenges that this industry face. And today I'm delighted to be joined by a colleague of mine, Paul Allera, who's worked in the industry for over 5 decades, who's worked from the shop floor all the way through transport operations and organisations of all shapes and sizes, and now there's many experiences of the changes that we've witnessed in this industry. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to take Paul's view of what's changed, what was good, what was bad, and what can we learn from that. So, Paul, welcome.
Thank you.
So you worked in the industry for over 50 years.
Yes, well, it will be 50 years next June.
And quite rightly so, early this year you were recognised at the Cold Chain Hub for your outstanding achievements, particularly to the Chill network.
Yes, that'll stem back from my time working at and looking after Whitbread Food Logistics when I was at Whitbread's in drinks, but I looked after food as well, and my time at Farlow Welsh Cool Chain.
And there's a lot of talk at the moment about the skill shortage and attracting people into this industry. So way back when you started in the industry, just take us on a journey for a few minutes of why you joined this industry and particularly what grabbed you about the industry and made you stay.
Well, you never know where your career is going to take you when you set out being a 15-and-a-half-year-old, trying to blag your way out of school and get a work experience before you're supposed to start work. But I was lucky to do that. But from being a very small child, I've always been interested in cars, trucks, buses. I had every single dinky and Kobe toy going, every Meccano set going. Dad was in the industry, and it's kind of one of those things, and you're 5-year-old, Dad takes you in a truck, and then you're just hooked. And I just wanted to do that because I've always been one of those people that think, if you can find a job that's like a hobby, it don't feel like a job.
That's a really good point. I think one of the things you relate to family, working in the industry and following your family's footsteps. Mm-hmm. Do other members of the family work in the industry?
Yes, I think we both fell into it, my brother and I, because certainly my younger brother, he was not in the industry from leaving school. He was doing another job and then fell into truck rental, and has been around truck rental for probably 40 years. So
And in terms of the journey, Paul, that you actually went on, so you started at the shop floor, old-fashioned terms, and then you ended up being responsible for some of the largest fleets in the country, particularly with Fowler Welsh, for example.
Yeah.
How did you go from that to that?
Well, obviously, we don't know where it's going to go, but what I started out to be, because Dad always drummed it into me that you need a career. You need to get something behind you. So obviously that was my apprenticeship. So I did the apprenticeship on heavy goods and light commercials, like a lot of people my age that are still around in the industry did. And then my national craftsman after that. And then I kind of made a decision when I was just about approaching 21. I was laid on underneath a truck, getting absolutely soaking wet through freezing cold, wrapping my knuckles off on the motorway. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a look at something else. So I kind of went into that, but you don't know where that's going to take you. So I was a truck driver for many years on primary movements. And then I found myself working at Whitbread's as a drayman. I went as a drayman. So I didn't go straight to the top. I worked to the top and go back then after being apprenticeship. Your apprenticeship starts again because you're learning to be a drayman. Driving a truck is driving a truck. It's very hard work and a physical job. But being recognised within Whitbread's and put on development, so I was put on development to become a team leader within transport. And the rest, they say, is kind of history on that side, because you're learning about warehousing, you're learning about distribution, you might transport one to CPC, and it just keeps going, and moving from satellite depots to TSDs to RDCs, relocating around, and trying to keep away from Dad, because Dad was a senior manager within Whitbread's at the time, so you're trying to keep away from him, and I think it was the last 7 years it was the last 7 years, not I think, it was definitely the last 7 years where an opportunity came up for me to go and work with the engineering team within Whitbread's. But I always went with them and supported them on any events they were doing, like the fuel trials at BTAC and Myra and everything else. So I was always involved with transport and the engineering. I kept it, but I was given a project to relocate again and build a workshop, bring all the work in-house, and that's what I did. And Whitbread's was sold out, Secondary Logistics sold out to Interbrew, then DHL trade team took over, and that again gave me an opportunity to go look somewhere else after working for the brewery for quite a long time. So I did. I went in rental. So I was working for what was back then Hilaire, and we said big fleets. I think in the height of that, we had 17 workshops, VMUs around the country, 24,000 vehicles, which was 18,000 trailers, 6,000 motor vehicles. And I loved every minute of it. Back into the engineering side, but as a manager, looking after VMUs, etc., keeping, engaging with the customers and trying to keep their fleets compliant. Yeah.
So as you developed, I mean, that's quite an impressive development career. Mm-hmm. What's your biggest learning been? I'll give you particularly around it's a similar development to my own, where you go from actually doing the job, which is very important, to actually being the leader in that area. Mm-hmm. So go from a follower to a leader. Both are very important in any workplace. Yeah. So what's your biggest learning or biggest challenge by going on that transition, particularly from the sound of it initially, where your dad was a very well-respected person within the organisation you worked for? So a number of challenges probably.
There was a hell of a lot of challenges, but and that was one of the benefits of not working in the same location as Dad, even though he was regional and looked after a few, but I didn't work in the same location as him. But what helped me, because the transition for anybody that's worked on the shop floor, then to start to manage what was your colleagues, your workmates, and start to have a different approach. What helped me, and the way that Whitbread's back then, fantastic in the development, what they did with people, we relocated. So what helped me, I was managing people that I didn't know, that I hadn't worked with. So I was relocated to a different location to manage those people. So I moved to Blackburn. We always laugh about that as well, because obviously I'm a Yorkshireman of working in Lancashire now. And, you know, they kept reminding me about the War of the Roses. But we got on pretty well. And it's just, I've always had a theory of, and there's a lot of people, and I say this when I'm speaking to apprentices, where people will not want to do what's not their work. But I've been one of those that have always said yes, not because I'm a yes man, and I'm far from that, as people will know, but I always look at something different from my role as an opportunity to learn and develop myself. And that's why I did what I did. So the challenging bit was going back and having where I first started at the TSD in Sheffield, was going back and having a bit of that and getting the respect of what used to be my colleagues, my workmates.
So in your career, we'll come on to how you joined the RHA in a moment, but which was the most satisfying, being on the spanners? And I mean that with the greatest respect, or being the manager of the people on the spanners?
Both equal, because they're part of your journey of what you're doing. If I wouldn't have done the spanners, it's like now in the position where I am and the respect I gain from my peers and industry colleagues, it's been great to have that and to share knowledge. But I've got everything I've done. I've walked in the shoes of many, and that's how I see. So every bit I've done has been equally important to what's led me to obviously being employed by the RHA today as the technical director, because, you know, I can swing a spanner around and I can drive a truck as well, and I maintain my license as well. Still got my Class 1 license. So I've been a warehouse operative and a warehouse manager and a transport manager as well. So it's kind of like you're rounded, aren't you?
Like
so
the experiences.
It is, and they're all equal to me.
So how did you end up at the RHA? So we had this career, very operational, you know, very commercial focused, very certainly in the chilled network. You know, it's what I describe as, you know, a just-in-time 24-hour clock that you work to. A lot of pressure on that from a time perspective. And then 5, 6, 7 years, 6 years?
7
years at the RHA. How did you end up in this position?
The truth.
You can tell the truth. Nothing but the truth.
No, right. So, well, the story, it's a funny story, actually. Well, I think it's funny. But yes, I was retiring over 7 years ago from Fowler Welsh. And I didn't really want to leave, but time comes from that we have to move on. Fowler Welsh were a fantastic company to work for. And I'd done everything and done a deal, and I'm going to mention yourself in this because obviously it was you. And I'd done everything on Monday with the HR director, Linda Young, lovely lady, and John Kerrigan, my boss, lovely man. And I was at the motor transport that week, and there was a big guy about 6'2" who all come and stood by me and whispered in my ear and said, "Little birdie tells me you might be looking for a job." And that person was you. And he said, "Come and have a chat with me." So I went and had a chat with you. And thinking about it, the industry has been absolutely fantastic to me. And I saw this as a fantastic opportunity because I'd had experience of the RHA before by sitting on regional council. So I had a big understanding of what the RHA was about, but what I saw it, a benefit for me, was to be able to help and support people that hadn't been as fortunate as me to work for big blue chip companies and big operators with a lot of infrastructure and a lot of people behind. And I saw I was giving something back, and that's why I did it. That was the big driver for me to join the RHA, to help and support our members.
And again, I mean, I agree with all of that, and I remember the conversation very well. And one of the passion and desire that you have for the industry is obvious, and the way you've developed and been the driving force, pardon the pun, behind the RHA simulator van, which is about to transition onto an electric van. So you've gone from diesel, well, you've gone from horse and cart, 50 years ago, through to diesel and onto the electric van. And it's what keeps this passion in Paul Allera for the industry? Why are you so driven, pardon the pun again, about this industry? What's it mean to you?
Well, it's served me well, and it's been good to me. So it's about that how you're brought up and the ethos, and I'm giving something back to what it is. But it you never know what's going to change. Some of the changes that happen that we've seen over the years, at the time, like everybody, you don't kind of agree with them, but it's better the devil, sometimes. So you have to get on with it and do it. But we never know what's around the corner and how it changes. Yes, we need to transition. Yes, we need to do something from ICE to EV to alternative fuels. But the way it's been driven by the government, and that's my frustration within the industry. It's the only one I have. But my colleagues, not just at the RHA, but in the industry, I know that they will make it work, and it's how they are. And if I can help and be a part of that, it's a bit like when you mentioned the driver simulator van. I see it as an opportunity, because I'm kind of old fashioned, and a camera to me is a camera. Always has been. What we have, a forward-facing camera, ADAS systems, advanced driver technology for supporting drivers with everything that's coming towards the driverless vehicle. And I see that it will happen sooner or later, but there's nothing or any understanding, I don't think, from the governments that we get this minute in time. This turn around and say, this is what we're going to do, but it's not them that has to do it. And in the words of an old mentor of mine, my dad used to say to me, nothing's impossible to he who doesn't have to do it. So it's about the guys that are making the changes, and what's around the corner. AI, artificial intelligence. Well, artificial to me has always been something that's fake. I've got a real flower and I've got an artificial flower. It's not a real flower. And we talk about artificial intelligence. Where I see and where I get my head around artificial intelligence is our simulator van. It's an artificial truck. We're able to do assessments, get people used to driving, get people used to maneuvering bits of equipment without taking a 200,000 plus pound outfit out onto the road with risk, taking that money away from operational costs, because you might need that vehicle to go out and do a load. So that's how I see it, and that's why I like it a lot. And at the same time, we're obviously helping the environment, because we're not burning any diesel while doing driver assessments.
And I think, it's really pragmatic, and it's a testament to you, actually, as a person, how you've transitioned over the 5 generations. I don't like to keep going on about that. That you've been in the industry, where it was a very different world, when you entered it, as it was when I entered it, and people had different expectations. And you look at the generations that are around us today, and they have different desires, and they have, Generation Z, etc., etc. Going back to your technical knowledge and expertise, what would you say is the biggest single, and you can only have one, technical challenge that the industry faces at this moment in time?
Well, it's change. It's change. We don't know how it's going to go. It's how it is, and yes, it's great that we've got all these systems coming in, but what we always forget about is the key person is that driver, he or she, and everything that we're doing to confuse he or she, and distract he or she. And, it's great. I mean, I'm old fashioned. I won't use a sat nav. We never had sat navs. We never had sat navs. We never had sat navs, and we have things now. It's that it's a shame that we have to develop equipment to make a driver not hit a bridge, to make a driver not find where it's going in he or she where they're going. But I get it. What's changed over the years and what's become harder is the volume of traffic is more immense from when I was driving in 81. When I come out, even when I was going out with a van to do a breakdown, back then. That's changed. You know, we've transitioned from a logbook to a digital card.
Did they have motorways when you started driving?
Yeah, there was a few more.
That's a joke.
There was motorways around. Yeah. And you know,
Well, not the M25.
not the M25. Yeah, not the M25. The big that used to the joke's still there. It's an old one, isn't it? The biggest NCP car park ever built in London.
What I can remember was you probably can when the M25 opened in the mid-80s, and there was no traffic on it.
No.
You used to be able to literally drive
Well,
to your point.
That's the same again. And when you look at where trucks used to go before, you know, we talk about the old A34 when, you know, it wasn't a dual carriageway. It was a single carriageway all the way down into Winchester.
Oh.
Yeah, a single carriageway onwards because they don't think the M3 was finished in the M27 back then. So it's kind of how that's come. But the volume has got more and more. You only have to drive onto your where you live around your estate now. It's gone from having, you know, back in the 70s, mum and dad had a car and it was like, God, they're rich then, they got 2 cars. But now there's 4 cars on every drive now because the kids can't afford to leave home. They're still there, they've got cars, and there's cars parked everywhere. So
when you started driving, so sorry to interrupt you, you'd have either, if you wanted to get in touch with base or base for you, it'd either be a telephone box or CB radio.
CB radio or two-way radios. Two-way radios in. But yeah, it was a telephone box. Or in the days when police stations was open, you'd pull up at a police station and go and ask the local bobbies if you got lost. You know, but communication isn't the same these days.
And just building on that, I mean, obviously it's a changing world, and we sound like two fossils sat here chatting. But actually, I think it's important to understand the past, because it gives you a view of where the future's going, and it's really, really important. Is that? And do you think, notwithstanding the most important thing that I know you're as passionate as I'm about as ex-operators, is people's safety? You know, this is about creating a vehicle that's safe and an environment and process that are safe to ensure that everybody goes to work and comes home and everybody's safe. But notwithstanding that, do you think there's too many regulations that are not contradicting each other, but trying to achieve the same thing in this industry at this moment in time?
Yes.
And do you think that overcomplicates and drives in cost, but also confusion potentially from operators as well as people that operate the equipment?
Yeah, and a good example of that is we have general safety regulations that are all coming in, and everything that is coming in is good, and I agree with that. And yes, safety is safety. Vehicles don't kill people. It's the people that are driving the vehicles that kill people, and that's where it stems from. Yeah, always. But the confusion comes when we have certain individuals that are, you know, let's call them the mayors or the mayoresses that want to change. So we've got general safety regs coming in, and there'll be, and vehicles will have things on, and people will always have something on their vehicles. Because I remember doing something, reference the direct vision standards. So that was something. Then everybody else wants to jump on it. Well, we've got the general safety regs coming. So why do we have to create these other things, which is another on cost to the business? Yeah. The suppliers of these equipment will jump onto the back of this, and all of a sudden what was a £1,200 piece of equipment is now twice as much money, because you've got to have it, otherwise you can't operate in London and Manchester and Birmingham. They'll all have it, but we should have one standard, and that's how it is, because it's just muddying the water, and operators don't know what they've got, what they need to go, because they'll be different. The mayor in Manchester might want something different to what the mayor in London wants, and there we go. And when you look at it, with everything we've got on the vehicles currently, what the manufacturers, don't forget the manufacturers play a key role in this, and they have developed trucks so much in the time that I've been around, from not having a Euro standard, and the only thing that were electric were your indicators, your brake lights, your headlights, and a glow plug, to having onboard computers that control it. You know, somebody asked me the other day, why are most trucks automatic? That's probably because the truck's more intelligent than some of the drivers that are driving them, because they've got everything on them. Forward observation is greater on a truck.
And it's a very different job, you know,
without a doubt. But all it's becoming is we we have a standard, and that's the standard we should have. We shouldn't be changing those standards.
Correct.
Yeah, we shouldn't be creating something saying you need this, you need that, and that's where it goes.
So just building again, if you look at something from an RHA's journey since you've been with us, actually, we introduced a coach membership, and
Yep.
we introduced a van membership.
Yeah,
You know, very different. You might say, what have you done that for? You know, why did we do that? You give us your perspective as our technical director, the value of us representing all three.
because it's everything that when we look at what RHA driving business on our roads. So you could actually say, let's have a membership for people that are delivering parcels in the cars, because
Which
that's
is a
where
growing
it's going,
industry.
which is part and parcel of it, and that's how it is. Yes, there's more cars turn up delivering your parcels, and we do that because we want to represent those people that are driving that business on the road. I mean, I'm somebody else that I haven't maintained my PSV license, but I have my PSV from back in the 80s when I took that. And you know, a lot of people said, why do you want to do that? And now this thing was, you know what, it's best load you could ever carry because it walks on and walks off itself, you know. But that was just me back then. But I understand why we did it. And van membership, well, it's a light goods vehicle, a light commercial vehicle. Yeah.
Do you think there should be more regulation around the vans?
This should be regulation, but when we look who's operating the regulations, look who's operating the vans, that's about down to the business and their ethics and their strategy, how they manage it. We shouldn't be dictating at this minute in time. You know, there's been a consultation out since last October on the 4.250 vans, and again, to me, common sense hasn't prevailed. That's my opinion. Common sense hasn't prevailed. Safety, I'm all for it. But when we quote safety, when I asked about why you put a restrictor on what was a 3.5 ton van, which is now 4.250, well, because it's now an N2 vehicle and it's an heavy goods vehicle. Well, it's never going to be an heavy goods vehicle because you're lucky if you can get 1,200 kilos on it.
Yeah.
Well, I get 1,200 kilos in a 2.5 ton van. Yeah, providing it's light, you know what the makeup is. But we've done that, but yet they quote safety, but yet, so the second fastest vehicle on the road at this minute in time is a bus or a coach that can have 73 people on it, doing 61, 62 mile an hour. But yeah, we're going to restrict the vans, and we're going to put all the HGVs now in lane 1, and we're going to put all the vans in lane 1 as well. But people aren't transitioning to that EV van because the restrictions that they put on with MOTs, speed restriction, tachograph hours. But good companies will do that. Now, it doesn't affect what we're doing with our electric van, because our electric van is not carrying goods. It's going to be a training vehicle, but we still have to operate it on the road.
And I think it's fair to say, which we won't go into now, but we've certainly been on a journey, pardon the pun, with our electric van to get it on the road, and it's been challenged. Going back to the spanners, which is the way he says it, if I may call them the spanners. So whether it be a driver or a mechanic, whether it be a truck or a coach, or to some degree a van, shortage in both areas. 30,000 mechanics short as we speak, brings in all sorts of problems for operators, challenges around cost, availability, blah, 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 blah. Why, in your opinion and experience and knowledge, why are we having trouble recruiting the next generation of mechanics specifically?
Well, it's a Paul Allera view. It's not the view of the RHA.
This is what this podcast is about.
Yeah,
it's a Paul Allera podcast.
So we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. So what we've got is, at this minute in time, there's a lot of publicity and a lot of press around how stressful it is to work and be a truck driver because of the demands that's placed on he or she, which is true. Just-in-time deliveries, you got a time slot, we've got more congestion on the road, there's no accountability for that, you turn up, you get turned away. There's no facilities out there for the drivers to stay anywhere. You know what? Every single lay-by back in the 80s when I drove down the A1 going into London, you could stop at any one of those lay-bys and there'd be somewhere to eat, somewhere to park, and we had truck stops as well. There were truck stops. They've all got them. They're not built. So we get that. So we promote that's like that. But what we tend to do then is deter the younger generation from coming into that because we're telling them how bad it is with all this.
That's a good point.
And that's the same as being a technician, as they call now. The technicians now or, well, I was a mechanic, but it's dirty, it's greasy, it's oily, you're laid on your back. But it's not true as it was in the old days. You're working from, it's evolved. You are a technician, you're working with a computer, you're working with computers. Yes, there's still the dirty jobs, and it's the long hours, it's the working on the side of the road, changing tires, doing breakdowns, whatever it may be. And that's again that distraction. Is it safe to do so? And that's where we are. So we tell them all the bad points, but we don't tell them all the good points.
No, it's
From today,
Yeah.
what I've said about what I did, my journey to be within transport has gone from being an heavy goods mechanic, when back in the days, we didn't have the same equipment in workshops as they've got now. Yeah.
And I think that's an important point here, that everything changes, and you look at, like you mentioned before, you look at an actual driving truck now and look at the cab and the technology that's in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And you look at the,
Lovely.
and it is compared to certainly what I remember, from people that used to work with me doing that. I've got 3 more questions to ask you. Oh, yes.
Fine.
Good. So in this ever-changing world, what piece of advice would you give to my son or any younger person starting out in this industry?
Well, I think I covered that earlier on, where if you've got the opportunity to learn, then take it. Be that person that wants to do it. Ask and say, I want to learn more. Yeah. Don't be one of those that says, I just turn up for work, take your money and go. It's what your opportunity and for your future journey, it starts there, and it's where you want to end, and everything pieces together. So for me, I didn't think back when I was working on the spanners that I'd be the technical director of the RHA, which to me is a very, very good position. I didn't think I'd have the position, never saw that I'd be head of fleet of Fowler Welsh.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, but it's down to you as an individual to make the changes and to do that. Nobody else can do it for you. Nobody's going to put you in that position if you haven't got the same commitment.
Right, and I think you're right. I think once you get there, you got to be proud as well. You got to be proud
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm proud to wear the badge of the RHA. And that's it. I was proud to wear the badge. I've always been that person. Wherever I've worked, I pushed that company. It's about the brand, because I am being out in the van. I've had our van's seen over 2,000 individuals.
Incredible.
On this from this year. Yeah, massive. Done all these events, but it's the brand. It's the RHA brand. So when I'm with those people, it's the RHA brand. It's me.
Do people wave at you on motorway?
Some people do, actually. Yeah,
In a nice way.
Yeah, some people wave in funny ways as well. I don't know what that means, but
And then my next question is, and again, it's in your experience, from cart to truck, if you like, with the pony and the donkey. What should a trade association in this ever-changing world, what is the role of a trade association today and going forward? Is it still relevant, or is it not relevant? In your opinion?
My opinion, and purely my opinion, is that yes, it's relevant. And I think what any trade association should do is be proactive and try and facilitate the changes and the progress between what is the stakeholders, the government, and obviously the members. But I think it's having that balance as well of the skill base within that organisation. And quite often we have been guilty, in my opinion, the RHA, and I used to say this when I'm in council, when the policy guys that have their say, and I went, when did you ask me if that's what I wanted? Because you're telling me something now that's not relevant to me. So I think sometimes with the strength of what we have in the RHA and the strength in some of the members that we've got, it should be that mix, that the RHA facilitating the meetings between the government and the operator.
No, I agree.
And that's what it needs to keep doing it. But there'll be a place for it, and that'll evolve, that'll change. That will change. I'm sure it will, because you know, you can say many years over the past people, and I've heard our members say, and I've heard people say, I've read it on social media where people have said, oh, RHA, LUK, CPT, they're just a talking shop. Well, we have to talk to get somewhere.
It's a fair point. You know, I think part of it as well is that you know, we are, you know, a community, you know, that creates a community for the industry, and that's important. And then you'll never get everybody that's got the same view. My final question, it's not a trick question. What is, you can only have one, what are you most proud of in your career that you'll take away? So the one thing, you know, when you eventually, you know, hang up the spanners and go fishing, what is the one thing you'll reflect on and think, I did well there, I was really pleased that you did that, or are you proud of it?
Well, I'm just everything, actually. It's not one thing. I'm proud of myself for doing and achieving what I've done, because it was said to me as an apprentice when I finished and I did my National Craftsman. It was said to me by an individual that I was good for nothing and I'd never come to anything. And so it's me. I'm proud of the longevity and for everything I've done throughout my career. I've got no regrets of anything that I've done. Yeah, and even me as a hothead back then, you know, a hothead 20-year-old, that could have turned around and said I was proud of keeping my hands in my pocket rather than ripping his head off. There you go. But yeah, it's just everything, my whole career.
Well, that's a really good answer. I think, you know, ultimately, to do 50 years in this industry and move around the industry as you have done, it's, you know, it's a credit to you and the determination, the passion, and the learnings that you've taken, and happily share with other people as well. You know, I think the sharing of the knowledge is really, really important, and it's something that you do very well. So, Paul, thank you very much for sharing with us your experience, your views, and your thoughts. And it's been a lovely 20 minutes. And thank you very much for all you've done for the RHA. Thank you.
And continue to do.
And continue to do for the time being. You know,
Yeah.